Dr. Scott Atlas, welcome back. Great to have you on. Now, the World Health Organization has made a significant step towards North Korea recently, electing the country to its executive board. This has many feeling alarmed, considering the regime's global belligerence and track record on human rights. What's your reaction to this?
Well, it's a surprise, and it also points to what should be a significant skepticism, or at least a specific consideration of what we're getting for our money. The United States is the #1 contributor to the World Health Organization budget, and it has a budget that's just been approved to be $7 billion a year. So if the U.S. is the #1 donor as a country, and then of the philanthropic contributions, which make up about 80% of the funding, the second most important donor is a U.S. entity, the Bill Gates Foundation. So, you know, we should always, of course, be concerned about where the U.S. taxpayer money is going. But here we're funding an organization that has a real history of an ideology basis rather than a record of success, aligning with China, specifically the current director of the World Health Organization, and now another country that is really aligned with China, frankly, which is North Korea, setting the agenda. I think we should be very concerned as Americans.
And how do you think the U.S. should respond, considering this?
Well, I think the issue here is accountability for the money. The UN, of course, is the parent organization for the World Health Organization. The WHO has a track record of gross failure. And I'm not just talking about the current pandemic. I'm talking about repeated failures in basically the H1N1 flu, Ebola, a Zika virus. They were very late. Tedros, the Director General of the WHO, has been praising China for its transparency and actually claiming that China was a, quote, model, unquote, for pandemics. So I think this is very dangerous. It's an organization, the WHO, that does not have the priorities of free countries. And if you have an organization that's international, there's a value in that if it's open, if it's transparent, and if it's aligned with the United States agenda, if we're going to be the funders of it. So I think it's very dangerous. You have a North Korea. It shouldn't even have to be said. This is almost satire that North Korea would be on the board of an organization that is under the auspices of the UN, when North Korea has flaunted and multiple times violated UN decrees. So I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm not sure if it's an example of wielding power behind the scenes by China, which apparently they did to elect Tedros. That's the sort of information that we're being fed. But it needs we need to be very adamant about holding organizations accountable for U.S. taxpayer funding.
And what effect do you think the executive board position will have on the UN and its decisions?
Well, it's not clear. I mean, as in all these organizations, it's not clear who has the power. But when you look at the executive board, we see some countries that are aligned with the United States, frankly, like Switzerland. And then we see a country like North Korea coming on board. Since 75% of their trade is with China, since I think it's common knowledge that their whole economy is based on China, we're basically allocating our funding to an organization where China has a tremendous influence. So it's not clear directly, and this is one of the problems with giving money to these organizations, is that it's not transparent. These organizations have a lot of funding for things that are not very effective. We're not clear how they spend their money. And by the way, the Biden administration has just pledged another in total, something like $700 million toward another big organization called the Pandemic Fund, which is housed in the World Bank. Now, this is another organization where we're spending massive amounts of money. We don't know what we're getting for it. And frankly, it's not clear it's in alignment with the goals of the United States.
Worthwhile keeping an eye on that one too. Thank you so much, Dr. Scott Atlas. Really appreciate having you on.
Thank you.